Rashi, and I would like to welcome all of our esteemed panelists along with our committee members, past chairs and our guests, because they are the future.
So without much further ado, may I take this opportunity to start inviting from our first guest, Dr. Pramath Sinha. Dr. Pramath Raj Sinha is a dynamic force in entrepreneurship, academia and philanthropy. As the founding dean of Indian School of Business ISB, he revolutionized management education. My next guest is Dr. Kimberley Dixit. She is the CEO and co-founder of Red Pen, Miss Manika Sagar, the Director Principal of Shiv Nadar School, Gurgaon, having served as principal for 22 years at Shri and 11 years as TSRS Director. Miss Manika Sharma, she is now the Director of the Shri schools across 3 campuses in Delhi and NCR. Mr. Raj Singh is the Director of Education Today, which operates Vasant Valley School. He stands as a serial tech entrepreneur and an active angel investor dedicated to driving positive social impact.
So just for some context setting, we are all mothers, and I think all of us are struggling to figure out how the world is changing. Some basic principles that we can use as individuals, as mothers, to ensure that our kids are actually positive contributions to the society at large. So what I would like to understand from you is, what are the basic pillars of creating a great institution?
The truth is that I learned this from my school teacher, who I value a lot. Some of you may know Mrs. Gauri Ishwaran. Just make sure your kids are happy. And it seems like a corny answer and a cute answer, but the truth is that there's the whole truth is in that statement. How can you have kids and not feel affectionate? So that's what I try to do at Ashoka and ISB. What do we do to keep kids happy? Faculty will want to design curriculum, administrators will want to do this or that, or bring best practices from the top universities around the world. I only go by the benchmark is what is the right thing for kids to be happy. And happy here is happy fulfilled, happy satisfied, happy challenged. Not obviously fun happy. They have enough fun anyway. That you don't have to worry about. So that's the only thing you do as an institution creator or builder, and it keeps my head simple. I don't have to obsess about too many things. I think there are 5 areas you need to focus on. People need to learn how to think, and there are various ways of doing that. People know how to solve problems. So it's not just thinking, but applying that thinking to taking a problem and solving it. People need to know how well, people need to know how to communicate well. People need to know how to work with each other well. As you grow senior, if you can't get along with people, you can't progress in life. So collaboration becomes very important. And finally, people have to know themselves. If you do these 5 things, thinking, solving, communicating, collaborating, and leading yourself are the 5 things that I think people need to learn, and I can talk more about that today.
We say till the age of about 10 years, the children are doing hobbies like, and they're taking it very seriously, classical dancing, sports and swimming, and then they say, okay, let's focus on academics. So do we think that the child gets lost in this?
So I have a simple formula for everything, and it's my formula, so please don't take it as a... I think you should allow them to do one thing. Of course you have to focus on academics. Of course we know that you have to get good marks in class 10 and class 12 to do well, and you will never get off that. So just allow them to do one thing. One thing you can allow alongside the studies. In fact, actually help them in their studies. Somebody likes to read, give them at least that chance. And I think that one thing if you allow during those periods, it will help them with admissions as well. I think Kim will.
That was going to be my next question to Kim, is that, when we look at applications, there's a pressure. How important is this CV when you're looking at higher education, and how do you navigate this?
I'll be very honest. It would be dishonest of me to sit here and say it's not important for college, let your kids be happy, do whatever they want, etc. It is important. These things do matter. I think that there's an over obsession about it, in the sense that, we are now seeing students who've, only patented something and won international awards by grade 11, and that's all they've done, and that's considered nothing. We're just like, no, that's a lot. So it's not about your kid having done everything to the highest level. It's like, does your kid have some kind of character? Is there some kind of depth of commitment that's being developed, or intellectual curiosity that's being shown? And those kinds of things are really what colleges are looking for. I really don't think they're looking for, okay, I get this question a lot, this girl has done 6 years of Kathak and this one has done 8, and that one did, her Arangate driven, that one did not. Like, they're not doing that. What I think is really, really critical right now from what I'm seeing from students is that actually these days, the pressure is not coming from parents. It's actually not. It's coming from students. Something is happening in schools where the peer environment is creating a situation where students are not even, they know intellectually, I do not need to go to X college or do Y activity, but I feel so much pressure that my peers are doing it. And so we need to figure out a way to move beyond that and allow students for whom that's not their story to actually to embrace it and be happy with that outcome, because I think it's really important, and that's actually the majority of people.
Well, taking up from what Kimberley said, I was going to say that we've got 3 of the most distinguished schools in Delhi here. What is it that you as institutions can have as a safety net to bring in those habits where they're able to deal with failure, to be able to deal with not getting the dreams that they want, not getting the future that life can have, because life can pan out in so many ways, so many ways, and a degree cannot become the answer to everything. So do you have some secret mantra, or would you like to bring something in, therapy, whatever, exactly, please.
Okay. Schools have to be conversations, and it's the relationship between the teacher and the taught. I think parents need to have conversations with the school. That's why career counseling, college counseling is so important for schools. We started our career counseling more than 12 years back. One of the first schools to actually employ so many college counselors. A parent says, I went to Cornell, I want my son or daughter to go there. Not realizing that that child has an issue with cold climates. Do people even know how cold Cornell is? They go there for 6 months. It's not about legacy. It's about understanding. You spoke about self-awareness, as did Kim speak about self-awareness. We need to be aware of what do we need to do. About skills, schools have it as a part of their curriculum now. We have life skills in our school. I've always believed higher character before anything else. Skills can be taught. Even when I recruit, when we spend so much time with those who have applied to us, we get to understand where they come from, what's the passion that they bring to the job. So I think it's really important to first understand what is my child like.
So many of us among the parents, we have this question, what is the right age for counseling or seeking health counseling for our young ones? Some say we can start at 7, 8, 9, depending on what. So what are the key things that one should look in a child to do that?
I don't think any child needs a career counselor at age 7, that's for sure. I mean, some children go to boarding school at grade 8 and some go at grade 11. So depending on when they're going, then you would accordingly target their sort of preparation. I wouldn't really even call it counseling. I think that's a word that people use to catch all kinds of, sort of guidance.
So just want to do a quick poll of the ladies here. How many have children under the age of 10?
No.
So most of you. All right, great. So your question is very relevant. When is the right time to start? So apart from being part of school management, I am a parent as well. So with very fresh experience, because my son just went to university. So hot off that process, and my daughter is past 12. So I've been through that process, and I always think to myself, which was just, you're never qualified to be a parent. You didn't pass any degree that entitles you to be a parent, nor do you have any work experience that gets you. So you're incompetent for this job. And by the time you figure it out, I kind of think I maybe have got half of it, it's too late. And most of us don't get a second chance, right? I mean, we are married once most of the times. And by the time your kids are 17, 18, you don't go back and have another one. So it's over. But I think with this, I think one of the biggest things around this, I would say, is and it comes back to something that you said as well, on that as well, Pramath, was around self, right? And I think in our current age, I didn't say this, there's another lovely lady in the education space, Abba Adams, who came up with this, which is we're in the age of anxiety, right? And I think that captures anxiety across parents, across children, and that is just amplified as well. And we're in a digital age that just makes it so much worse than it ever was before as well. And we're constantly benchmarking. Right. And I think this is one of the root causes of unhappiness and lack of self-worth across our entire society. And that's getting worse and worse for children as well. And I see it with my kids. Okay, they're 16, 17, but I'm looking at other, their cousins who are younger, and it's even worse. I can see it, right, is happening. So I would come back with one of the earlier questions around that, which was around really stopping benchmarking, right, as a parent, and saying, how do I stop thinking about my child versus other children? Because when you think like that, it goes into the child as well. And they are never going to be good enough. They're never going to feel good enough, right? And that is a fundamental source of the core. So if we start thinking, what's my child going to be? First of all, let's think about what is the core, and then start layering on what skills I need to have, collaboration, which are fantastic. You need to have that, creative skills, let's work with AI and technology. But if you don't get the core right, you're not going to have that, that right in the first place. So I think we need to go back to getting the core right, and that's about feeling good in the first place. So what are the things that you can create self-worth, and then you build around that as well. On the counseling part of it as well, I was petrified, or I was completely freaked out in Mumbai. I went to, a wedding party, and, so some mother did find out, Vasant Valley School, right? Over that point, I wasn't involved with the school. I was only a father. I only got involved 3 years back because I didn't want my children to be exposed to me being in school as well. So now they're almost out of the system. I'm a little more involved. And she came to me and she says exactly this, which is, my daughter is in class 6, and should we stop, badminton dancing for her, because a counselor has told her friend, because she started already, that that's not going to help with her US college application. And I was like, this is so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy. At such an early stage, you are destroying the joy of being a child, right? And I think this is really unfortunate as well, where we get so hyper, let's just start earlier and earlier and earlier, is that I think one of the saddest part, that kids who are now 12, 13 years old are being put on 4 or 5 years of a college application process. And their life is being taken away from them. Everything's about, is this going to help you get into XYZ college or not? And everything outside the box, we take it away, is devalued. And I think that is such a long way for us to go, and we're sort of misguided in that whole approach as well. So this is, I think, some of the things for us to just take a step back and reflect. What are the outcomes you're looking for? College is not the outcome of your child's life, right? It's one next step of the journey. The outcome is, where do you want them to be when they're 30 years old, they've gone out of college, they're a professional somewhere? What kind of person do you want them to be? How will they be successful when they go and work for XYZ, large corporation, become an entrepreneur, do something out there? How are they going to succeed then? What are those skills they need then? Not, are they going to spend 4 years of their life to get into XYZ college, and so everyone say, my kid's in XYZ college. I mean, I'm sorry, we're in society, right? And that's, it's there. But that's not the end goal. So I would say, and it's difficult. You're in a society where no one's thinking like this. Everyone is just looking at what's the next step. It's benchmarking, what college is your kid going to? Are they going to this place in the US? And yeah, the US is great, everyone loves it. The kids think it's cool, right? But okay, so you got to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, think about learning outcomes, the type of stuff that Pramath was saying as well. Those are the kind of skills of saying, okay, how do we build those? Because that's going to be success for them in the future. It's not going to matter what college they went to. When they get to 30, 35 years of age, it will not matter. What's going to matter is how good were those skills that they developed. So I think this is a bigger point for us, which is to take a step back and really rethink some of these things. It's difficult in our society, very difficult.
How do you know that your kids are doing okay? Right? I mean, how do I know that my kids are not taking it too easy because I'm not giving them enough pressure? But what's that litmus test?
How much is too much pressure and how much is the right pressure? I think firstly we need to get to know our children. As parents, as teachers, like Manika ma'am said, do we know our child? At our school we've got an AHA program. So right from grade 1, the children, they opt for one AHA between music, art, dance, theatre, and they pursue it for the whole year, and one sport out of about 12 to 13 options that they have. And that is just to help them find their AHA. What is it that gives them a high? So they go through 12 years of school trying to find that AHA. And for us, it's part of the curriculum. And similarly, whether you have it in the curriculum of your school or not, I think for parents it's very important to help the child discover their AHA. And just when the exams start, maybe in grade 4 in some schools or earlier, or in grade 6 or earlier, we have to help them keep a balance. You know, exams are not the be-all and end-all of all existence. What do exams teach us? We've all been through an examination system. They teach us how to prioritize. They teach us stress management. They teach us time management. That's skill building. Today, you and I don't sit down with a pen and paper and give an exam. But were we able to handle that stress? That is when our children also learn to handle failure. If the child is really focused on something, which is a goal for that child, help them find plan A, plan B, plan C. That will really give them a toolkit, if I may call it. There is no toolkit as such, but help them find a plan A, B, C. If not this, and parents feel, no, you have to be fixated on this, you have to get it. Not realizing the pressure that the child is building within themselves, but because from the minute a child is born, they know your triggers and they try their best to avoid them. They're programmed to keep you happy. So if they feel that you're unhappy with something, they're unhappy themselves. Knowing your child and knowing what they really want, because tomorrow, if the child does face failure, they need to have maybe a music, art, dance, theatre, sports, a run, cycling, skipping, something to fall back on, something which will help get their mood up. So I think that balance needs to be there. The millennials have changed their career paths twice or thrice, and they will continue to do that. But the Gen Z, which is coming, and we were trying to define Gen Z, they say from 11 to about 26 years. So these are children from 6th all the way to university. Gen Z will have different careers throughout their life, and they will keep changing. For them, change is the only constant. And they are the most fluid in terms of gender fluidity. They embrace it. When you were talking about male, female, transgender, they embrace gender fluidity. It's we who need to understand that. They will find career choices. There are so many opportunities, online, offline. I think they will create their own careers. This is the generation which is, they don't listen to authority too much. You need to connect with them. You need to connect. So you as parents, as educators, we need to be a step ahead. We need to know what makes them tick. We need to understand them. And they're going to be like Khalil Gibran has said, they live in the house of tomorrow, which we may never visit. So we need to understand their point of view, rather than they're hearing from everywhere. And they have so much peer pressure. We used to come home and be done with it. You had your school friends, you had your home friends. The neighborhood did not exist when you went to school. The school did not exist when you came home. Here on social media, everything exists simultaneously. There's so much pressure from social media. We need to help them navigate, make the right choices.
Age bracket 8 to 6. It just sounds very nice. I read a lot of books, self-help books, suddenly. It's a new thing for me. When you see, you have to understand, be nicer parent, the calmer parent. किसी और का बच्चा अच्छा कर रहा है कोई नहीं, say very good बच्चे तुम अच्छा कर रहे हो. You know, your child's feeling, success, everything comes together. I don't know how to be prepared. I still don't know it. I still go to bed with so much guilt. I still wake up with अच्छा आज क्या बोले बच्चे. So I know these self-help books are still not helping me, but I still go back to them.
I think
Get more self-help.
That actually applies to you also.
Yeah.
I think as a parent, what gives you joy with your children? Acceptance.
I think, I'll talk about my two children as a parent to parent, right? So my elder daughter, always a topper, 90%. And, okay, thank you. And she would stress herself out. So during exams, I would tell her, we are going to watch a movie. No, Mom, I won't be able to get, I said, if you get an 80, I'm okay. You get a 70, I'm still okay. But I don't want to see you stressed. I don't want to see you waking up in the middle of the night, in cold sweat, thinking, oh, I have not done this. I've forgotten. I said, I need you to calm down. On the other hand, I thought, okay, I've raised one child, my son, about 5 years behind her. In grade 6, they would start exams. They were both at Shri. And he told me beforehand, Mom, I don't want you to teach me. I said, why? I can understand it, but when you're teaching me, you're getting so stressed. I am getting tense and I'm not getting what you're trying to tell me. So I will study on my own. Please don't try to teach me. Do you expect a 90 from me? Please don't. I'm not like Didi. So he had already, created that. I think as parents, we did create a little safe space for them to be able to say that. So that's the only thing I will take credit for. And he never got a 90, ever. He got between 60 to 70. So my pact with him was, I will not teach you. If your marks fall below 60, I will start teaching you. I did not create a benchmark. Please remember, when they're having tests, 6th to 10th is a preparation for that 10th or the 12th. So every exam, they don't need to get a 90, 99, 95. I mean, these were unheard of. When we were growing up, the highest we would get was a 60, 62, barely. And that was the first division. Everybody would be happy. And very few people got that first division. And now, I mean, these are unrealistic. And when you release that pressure, when the time comes, they do perform. In the 10th, both of them got the same marks. Children are so different. And they have their strengths. So I think the worst thing we can do is comparisons. Whether it's between siblings, whether it is between cousins, whether it's neighbors or children in the class.
If you're a teacher who lacks passion or empathy or compassion or knowledge and who wants to do something and bring a change, then you're in the right job. And it happens to many of us. During COVID, post-COVID, many teachers took a call that they want to now do something different, right? And I said to the teacher mothers, because we are such a demanding and exacting school, because we want you there, all your energies here, and we want happy teachers, with a smile on your lips and a spring in your step, and we all spoke about happiness. I said, and if at any point in time, as teacher moms, you feel that you're giving up on your own children at home or your own family, then stop, take a pause. Don't come to school guilty, because you need to give your 100% to your family and you need to give your 100% here. If you have that kind of energy, then you're good. You're in a good space, because many times, and as mums, I see mothers here, make sure that you raise good, happy children with a very strong moral compass, the right from the wrong. Because children pick up everything the children pick up from home and from school and from their bus rides. Self-help books, yes, they help, but what will help you more? Find a mentor, an older parent. Find somebody who you feel, okay, I like the way she raised her kids. Just on another note, and then I think I'll pass the mic back to Divya. We had Mr. Viral Doshi. How many of you know of him? Okay. We had him over in school, and that was only open to parents of grades 10, 11, and 12. And honestly, I've never seen such a house full. Auditorium was full. All the moms and dads had notepads and making notes, okay? He said, stop giving your children so many projects. उस विलेज को भी रेज कर दो, एक किताब को भी लिख दो, by age से क्लास में नहीं,
class में no writing skills, but they published a book by grade 6, all right, and go to that village. He said every parent has a child who comes to him in grade 10 has done tidbits of projects till year 10. Consistency is important. If your child picks up one thing, let them follow that one thing. Even colleges know that are you going to drop this as soon as you get into that Ivy League college? The second thing he said, ask your children to read. I know it's the age of gadgets and this digital footprint, but ask your children to read. Read. Number 3, he did say this, which many of you may not agree, but he did say, marks matter. I'm quoting him. He said, marks matter. So have a focus. Have a focus, so that if you're aspirational for a college, but if you ask me, I believe that we raise happy children, they'll find their calling. They will find their calling. Because you can't push a child who doesn't like to study. It doesn't excite. So when parents come to me and say, in grade 9, we want to send them to that soccer school in Germany, I say, please go. The future is his or hers. Please go. Stop overthinking. We want to drop math. I said, don't push your child. So these are things that you young moms must know. Allow your child to be. You know your child better. Give them a good nutrition diet. Look after the vitamins and the minerals and what they consume any given day. That's important. Look after their gut. That's important. Reduce their sweets. That's important. The overall well-being of your children.
A couple of things based on what you said there was academics, yeah, totally matter. But I think it's about when do they start to matter as well. And just my own personal experience of sharing, because as you said, older parents as well. And Monica said the same thing with her son. I think it's fascinating, which is grades really, they don't really matter until they start to really matter, which is towards the end of school, really, if you think about it, right? And quite often, what I would say is up till before that point, it's really about, is your child staying up with where they need to be? They're not failing, they're keeping up with the curriculum. That's great, because then you've got bandwidth to go and do other important things that are going to make them a good human being as well. Sports is underestimated. We're devaluing it massively. The ability for sports, I think it's one of the biggest things we need to bring back into kids as well. You've got to get out to your house for a lot of things, get away from a computer, get into the nature as well, which they're not doing enough of, kids as well, right, with the lifestyles we're building. So these are the things that you've got more time for before the grades really matter for college applications, which is much later down the road. And I've seen this firsthand, where it's not difficult at all for kids to jump from being a 70%er kid to a 90 plus 95%er in any class, right, in their final few years of school. I've seen it with my own daughter. I've got a live example. I know my daughter, and I've seen her peer group as well. Kids who even she'd come back and say, well, that kid wasn't even very smart before, but now they're just topping the class by 11. And up till grade 9, the guy was running around and, having a good time. And I suddenly, that's not fair. I used to work so hard. She said, and I said, well, maybe you didn't need to work so hard all that time, right? Because she was building a lot of pressure. So I'd say, grades do matter, but at the right time. So when you've got kids that are younger, put it in the right context. Use the opportunity. Let them learn all those other skills, life skills they can learn through other activities as well, through sports, through arts as well. I'll give you another example. My son played hockey as well. And unfortunately for him, COVID knocked his whole hockey out for 2 years and stuff. But he loved the game. And it stood him in good stead. He's gone to university now, and it's been one of the best things for him. He's not a great hockey player. He never was going to make any state level or anything, but just loved the game. And because of that, he's gone to university, found a whole bunch of new friends, and he's got a whole social community there as well, which is nothing to do with his academics. And he's happy because of it as well. So I'm saying, look at these other aspects that are going to stand your kids in good stead in the future as well. Academics, super important at the right time. Don't over-index on it so early in life for your kid.
After pandemic, I felt that there was something that I found different in my second child. You get to hear a lot of cases of children getting a little violent, children having aggressiveness, and this has become very common. So my question is, how should I tell my daughter not to stress so much
I know you can get 99, my love, but I don't want you to get 99. That's my question.
I'd really open this to the entire panel for their comments.
Yes, with the entire panel, in fact. My question is exactly the same. So I tell her, you don't have to be under the stress of 12th month. It's okay. But how do I calm her down? You don't have to take stress. Life is just not about getting into college. It's not even, I don't know, I feel that this is a change that has happened post-COVID. Before that, it's not there. So I thought...
So, mental health is something which is talked about a lot, especially after the pandemic. And because children have not, those 2 years of their life have not been normal. Many children are showing behavior issues. And this is not just children in middle and senior school, even in primary or early years, you can see behavior changes. You can see sporadic episodes, which are like very violent and very sad. So they're not on an even keel. They really need help. It is a problem with not just your daughter, with many, many children there. And when Pramath talked about happiness, I think happiness is that holy grail for everyone, whether, like I said, you're 5 or you're 50. You need that. During the pandemic, it was a much cliched thing, that dose of happiness. Does anyone remember that? DOSC, the dose of happiness. Easy to remember. But all the ingredients to help you be happy are there. The D stands for dopamine. So I'm not saying dopamine, which is a drug-related dopamine. Dopamine comes when you are overcoming a challenge. It could be a new skill on your violin. It could be a new technique in your basketball game. It could be a Sudoku that you're doing. So any challenge you overcome, your body releases dopamine. And that kind of a small challenges are very important for each one of us. If you haven't done something which is really giving you that kind of a high, you're not getting dopamine, you will automatically go into a sad state and it will lead to some issues. The O is for oxytocin. Oxytocin is your relationships. Your relationships as a family, with your friends, with your pets. Sometimes children take very well to having a new pet. If a child is really quiet, giving them the responsibility of a pet may be a way of getting. There is no one fix-it kind of a method, but we need all these 4 things, the dopamine, the oxytocin, serotonin already Manika has said. Your gut brain needs to be looked after along with your other brain.
One of the most important things, and this is all I really wanted to say, to do with someone who's suffering from anxiety is just let them feel that way. It's very hard. We do not have to solve the problem for them. And like Monica ma'am said, you can get them to a therapist. They often really enjoy talking to someone else who doesn't, isn't a part of their family, and they can openly share, and that really helps a lot. But I think the other thing is to just say, if someone says, I feel depressed, or I feel anxious, or I don't, I just started crying spontaneously, or whatever, it's like, that's really hard. I'm so sorry that's happening to you. That's really the best thing that you can say, because if you say, don't worry, you'll be fine, you have nothing to worry about, I don't care if you don't do well, it's not important. But that doesn't help, right? I feel sad. So you really need to make sure that they feel heard and they feel allowed to experience this. So that's all I want to say.
It's all about active listening. As mothers, do you engage in that? Just active listening. That's what therapists do. Because they listen. And many of us feel that going to a therapist is a no-no. But we go to doctors, don't we? So these are also practitioners who come with a code of ethics and confidentiality, which still in our country is a bit of a taboo. We don't go to marriage counselors, we don't go to counselors for social emotional behavior, we don't want to go to school counselors because we believe that there'll be narratives about my child, but that's not the case. School counselors don't even share with the principals of the school unless there is a case which is, pardon my saying so, but suicidal. If it's life-threatening, then the code says please share with the head of the institution. But if it's something to do with family dynamics or anything to do with the child and his peer pressures and others, the counselors are not supposed to share, and they don't. But it's we who are always hesitant to move in that direction because we feel we don't need it, I can handle it. But you know, parenting for our children sometimes can be very claustrophobic. I'm sorry to say so. When I would talk to some senior students and I would say, what makes you believe that you want to go overseas and you want to study wherever you want to study? He said, I just want to go away from home.
We need to put delayed gratification for our children to have that fire in the belly. Otherwise, if they're getting everything on a platter, they don't have the drive to do anything then.
I love what you said, ma'am, that all of us have come here looking for solutions, and you're like, hold the problem. You can't really find a solution. Pramath, I'd love to take the conversation to you on the other side, where you obviously get thousands of applications in terms of for your schools, whether that's ISP and now Ashoka. How do you choose? What are the skill sets that you are looking for? Or what's your percentage beyond, of course, the marks? I mean, this is the actual litmus test.
I have a simple formula. We look for students who are interesting and students who are interested. And we look for both in equal measure. This doesn't say anywhere on the form, but whenever I'm training admission selection teams, this is what I simply tell them. Of course, you'll have to score people and you have a certain set of standard questions and so on. But in the interview process, which is kind of the last bit, because all the people we get, they have similar marks, similar profiles, and they've written books and so on. So I think it's very important to distinguish the people who really stand out, and the way to try to do that is really assessing those two. And interesting comes from all the things we've been discussing. They've done interesting things in their career. And interested comes from how much do they know really about us? Have they really spent the time thinking about why do they want to come to Ashoka? Do they know anything about Ashoka? If they are from one of these schools, have they talked to their seniors? I often get turned off when people say that, no, but I don't know who went to Ashoka from my school. Maybe unfairly so, but how can you not actually be talking to people who have gone ahead? Or it doesn't have to be from your school, it could be a friend or a neighbor. So there are various ways to judge this. I'm not getting into that, but I think make sure that if your child is applying somewhere, that you've really done the due diligence on what that school offers, what that college offers, and why are they saying, which is the interested part. And getting that across is as important as showing how great you are. People tend to talk a lot about how great they are, right? And part of showing how you're interested is also to show that, hey, I've understood Ashoka enough to tell you why this is the right place for me.
That's the best. That's what they all say.
Yeah, and that doesn't help.
It doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Can you just give your point of view about the physical form of education and the online form of education that's available now?
So all your kids where you are will live longer, they'll work longer, and they'll have many more careers, as Manika was saying. So I think they will have to learn throughout their life, not just for the first 12 years or the 3 years of college. There's no going away. All of us talk about generative AI, but for people who are working, they have to learn what it means. I'm constantly reading about it because I have to learn it for my work. I have no choice. Okay, so I do think that they will have to, and so online will provide a way for them to keep learning throughout their life without having to go back to the physical campus. And without getting too confused about online, think of it as a textbook. It's the textbook of old. So I had a very poor physics teacher in school. No teachers are bad, but I was very confused with his teaching, and I needed to learn physics. So I asked a few people and they said you have to read this Fundamentals of Physics by Resnick and Halliday. Now, Professors Resnick and Halliday were sitting in Purdue. I didn't know the P of Purdue, or I didn't know any of those professors, but that was the book, and I learned all my physics from that book, from those books, and I got into a good school. So today, if you don't have a good physics teacher, you can go online and you can go to Khan Academy or YouTube or whatever. And if you don't have a subject in school and you want to learn about it, you can still learn it, which is the great thing, which is like going to a library. So if you have curiosity, you now have multiple ways to learn rather than just learning from a book. You can learn in small chunks. Attention span is low, so you can get the 5-minute version, the 10-minute version, the 3-day version. You don't have to feel that it is going to disrupt or change anything, especially not for your kids, because for school and college, they'll all go through the standard classroom and teachers, but they will use this to supplement as well as to add to their.
So what I would say with that is find some family time to read, right? That means you also need to set that example. If you can find some novel, I'm sure you can, that you like to read as well, and you find some enjoyable way that you can spend some quality time with your young child, where you read together, that's probably going to be a more enjoyable way where they start to build a habit around that as well. So use it as a way to build some good time together with your kids. I mean, I listen to podcasts now as well, and I find it's great because I can be doing lots of other things and listening to stuff as well, right? So fine, I'm multitasking with other things. I think with kids as well, though, I think we need to be a little careful where, it can be, hey, that's all the rage, and let's get kids starting to, listen to audiobooks as well. I think there's a certain level of engagement that you want to have, and that sort of whole cognitive process. So I think with children especially, because I heard this with one of the educators from our school as well, and, a mother had come and said, hey, great, my kids are not even reading, they're just into audiobooks. They've kind of like jumped to but it's like, that's not great, because there's a certain level of engagement with the content you get when you're actually reading it as well versus hearing it as well. So I think we want to be careful with children especially about the books probably versus audiobooks for them.
I mean, what role do we find technology playing in education as we move forward in the schools life?
Well, I think it's a happy mix of both. We can't give up one for the other, because all said and done, from entertainment, it's edutainment now, all right? Because technology is also aiding learning. So for us, and I remember.
Also, I think coming to audiobooks, they really work for children who are having dyslexia. When reading is an issue, it has worked for them. So I know of some parents who, while they're going on a drive or something, they use audiobooks for their child who would love to know more but is unable to read properly or is not able to focus on those words. They really work there. And yes, focus with the children. For everyone, it doesn't work.
Panelists from the school background, what is your vision of re-imaging or reinventing school education? And I have 2 questions. The other question is, how do you think mastering languages can help in skill development or other development?
Mothers, how many of your kids have a mobile phone already? Yeah? Okay. iPad or digital device. They've got access to a digital device. Okay, I'm going to turn it around. Whose child does not have access to a digital device? Okay. No, I didn't say own. Do they don't have regular access to a digital device? Okay. Very few. But anyway, the vast majority do, right? So all children from very early age have access to immense amount of content, unlimited power now, right? Of knowledge, information that's out there as well, tools they've got as well. So that power equation is shifting, right? Whereas before, it was textbooks, it was school, but suddenly the kid is empowered much more as well. So I think when we say about the future of schooling, it's going to be.
So I run a program called Inclusive Dunia. We focus on diversity, and we have a lot of conversations with young people So it's school-going, school-age children facilitated by older Gen Zs. And they're very, very open to it. But as we're taking these conversations into classrooms or into schools, we do get asked the question, what can you do for educators? So for all the school leaders over here, what do you think about inclusivity? Where do you think you need to, and all the schools are actually quite inclusive, but where do you think that envelope needs to be pushed, and what can people like us do to support that?
So I think we normalized it because as a part of our recruitment policy, we do have teachers who are transgender, and they do. And for the children, it's well, they're bi. They're not transgender. My apologies, but they don't know which part of. And they were my alumni, and they came back to school to teach, and they teach senior classes. But when we did not have to introduce them at an assembly, it was as normal as any other teacher joining our school to say, here's your teacher. The teacher came wearing a skirt, wearing long hair, wearing long earrings, wearing red nail paint, but that was absolutely fine. And they're class teachers. No parent has asked, no parent has questioned. Presently, I have 53 special educators that include therapists, and yeah, it's a large number. But wait till I tell you the number of children I have. It's 150. So 1 is to 2.5, 1 is to 3. There has to be a sense of purpose and a vision that school managements need to have. And where do we belong? What do we want to do? How do we want our students to grow up? So I know for sure that when our students leave the portals of the Shri Ram school, they need to be compassionate. They need to embrace diversity. They need to understand that everyone is different. And for me, just including the children from the economically weaker section is a huge high. Because for me, when I see those children graduating and becoming a part of the student council, the 25%, I feel we've arrived as educators, as a school. Right? Lots of conversations. I spoke about conversations when I started. Lots of conversations around this subject. In bachon ka kya hoga? Ye kahan jayenge? Yahan college jayenge? I went to the US and visited colleges. My only question to those admission officers was, these children come from these backgrounds. How can we help them? Will they fit? Is there anything that you can do to help us as a school?
I'm sorry, Divya, because your question was also on gender neutrality or so.
How are you sensitizing the teachers?
So we did have one case that after which we started sensitizing them, and there was this child who joined us in grade 7. And by grade 8 realized that he was trans. And so he did go to the counselor, and we had conversations with him, and I'll call him a she now. She's passed out this year, but the parents, mom was really on board, but the dad was not. So I had to first sensitize the bhaiyas and the didis, the domestic, the help, the support staff. They, because she wanted to use the girls' toilet. So that was the first, needed to sensitize them. And then we did workshops with this organization called Generations for the staff, for the students, and for the support staff. And I remember when she was in grade 11, she put her name down for head girl, but the dad was not agreeing to any kind of surgery for her, and that was online. And I asked her, I said, I'm glad you put your name down. Are you sure you want to do that? Because I will have to tell your electorate about it so that they don't discriminate against you. And she said, okay, let me think about it. And then she came back and said that if my dad gets to know from outside, I think it'll really hurt him. I want him first to accept it. As it is, I'm the editor of the magazine. I've already got that position. So I would retract. And I really wanted her to stand because it was a message to be given to the rest of the student body. But that was her choice because we kept asking her, what is it that we can do for you? Because while we've had this workshop, but you are going through that process, can you tell us what is the right thing to do? So I think just keeping your mind open is important, and the workshops that you're doing would be really important for all schools, for all educators and parents to have that. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. That literally have goosebumps. And really, I think from when we started to now, I genuinely feel a sense of calm. And I think the kind of place that all of you are together creating for our young ones definitely makes me much happier. But in the interest of time, and I know a few of our panelists need to leave, I would just give, last comment, 60 seconds from each one of you. Any takeaways or anything that you'd love to share with us?
Yeah, thank you so much again for organizing this. I think, considering I'm, I guess, the college career counseling person on the panel, I think just to kind of hopefully have given, some sense to parents about, just focusing on what is important, what are your child's strengths, being happy and spending time with your children in ways that are enriching and fulfilling for all of you is very, very important. And many times parents come to me and they say, oh, last year, the Red Pen got 5 kids into the Ivy League. What's the secret? What kind of kid can do that? What kind of parent? You need a tiger mom, et cetera, et cetera. And my answer is always, always, always that the successful students are usually, I should say always usually, they're always the ones who are self-driven. They're driven by themselves, you cannot drive them if you're their parents. So self-driven students, organic interests, interests that they have discovered and developed on their own, and yeah, just letting the student own the process. That is, I think, the only formula for success. There's nothing else. There's no other boxes to tick. It just has to be that. And yeah, marks matter. That's unfortunate truth.
I think you should stop reading the self-help books. I think all of you know how to parent. And I think you learned it from being parented yourself. You know what worked. I think you know what worked for you and what worked in your families. I think that's all you need to pass on, is how I think about it. Because there is no perfect way of doing this. That's one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that I personally find that kids are very alone. Very, very alone, even in the so-called crowded space that we're in. If you can just be there for them in an unqualified manner, you'll be doing a huge thing for your children. I see that at the other end because we receive these kids, and particularly when they are in college, they still need a lot of support, and they don't get it from most parents. Most parents are very busy. Even in emergency situations, I find parents saying, we'll come day after tomorrow. And I'm like, how can you be that big? So I think stop worrying about your kid being a problem to solve. Just solve the problem of being there for them always. And I think that will, the last thing I'll say is, your kids will, I can give it to you in writing. You can take my signature and the date, I can give it to you in writing. All your kids will get a great education. They will all do well. The one thing you can do is not depend on schools and colleges only to educate them. You can educate them also. My best education came not from the universities and schools I attended, and I got a great education, thank God for that. That was a virtue of the fact of where I was born. Actually, all your kids have already got guaranteed a good education. But the best education I got was from my dad, who basically, I come from 4th generation of Hindi writers. He never made me learn Hindi or write in Hindi. I was very bad in Hindi. And I look back and I never had any pressure to learn Hindi or write in Hindi. My worst marks were in Hindi. But you know what he did? He had 3 daughters, I had 3 sisters. He made sure that I was involved in planning all their weddings. I had to do all the bank work, the post office work, receiving people at the station, seeing off people at the railway station, buying airline tickets. He made me do all kinds of dirty jobs, and in fact, I used to think that he's lazy, that he's making me a small child and teenager do all this work. I'm not saying you have to make your children work, but please educate them in the way you think. I think he was educating me. He was providing me a parallel education. Each of you is capable of doing your own parallel education for your kids. Don't depend on us. You don't have to. They will get a good education anyway. You'll get them into a good school. They'll do reasonably well in college. You'll get them counseled. Wherever they'll do, the colleges will do a good job. But you can also do the rest of it. And you are all capable of doing it. Thank you.
I think I've said most of what needed to be said. Just help your child find their aha. What is it that gives them pleasure? Because that could be that unique thing about your child which will get them wherever they want to go. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Just one little bit advice. Dialogues are good between both the parents. Dissent and debate is also good. But what I've realized over the past few years now, that children should not be privy if there's a difference of opinion between you and your spouse over their educational journey, or over incidents, or over anecdotes, anything. Affirmation and appreciation is important. So your children should be surrounded by positivity and not privy to just dissent and debate, because it's hard for young children to process that. And the last thing little children, young minds want is seeing their parents in that situation. And I say this because having been in this journey for so many years, 35 years now in the Shri Ram only, I know it. It's really important that as somebody has to sort of do that, right, for your child. So just appreciate them.
Great. So that's a great thing said there as well. So let's try to add anything to that. I think one of the areas that came up earlier today was around safe space as well. I think this is something, they said, what is it that parents, what's the thing that you can be there for your child as well? And I think one way to take away is say, have you created a safe space that your child, if any trouble, they come to you, right? And they feel safe enough to come to you. And if you've got that, you've got a strong foundation, and that the child knows that I've got someone to go to as well, right? And you're that person for them as well. So building that safe space, and it's very easy for you to see that when do they come to you? If they don't come to you right now, how can you nurture that, right? That you can create that safe space that they should come to you, and that's about fostering that space, loving it. The other thing I'd say is it's okay to fail, and we should not be scared of it. And it's really one of the biggest things we're kind of like getting our kids afraid of a lot of the time is to fail, or not to go into a fail space as well. But in life, that's going to be one of the important characteristics for them to build on. So how can you make it that it's okay, right? It's okay to fail, because that's part of how you're going to learn. And you haven't got this right now, but you're going to figure it out, or you're going to do better next time. And that's just a fun, how do you build that as part of a habit and a part of their process, that they're okay to do that? They're going to experiment. They're going to take adventure. They're going to take risks. So I think that's probably the other thing at the moment as well that we probably don't do enough of, is allowing or encouraging our kids to fail, right? But in a positive way. And it's good, right? So these are, anyway, two things.
So thank you so much, everyone, for this beautiful conversation that we had. And we would like to thank all our panelists, Mr. Pramath Rajji, Ms. Manika Sharma, Ms. Manika Sagar, Ms. Kimberley Dixit, and Mr. Raj Singh. And of course, the entire audience for making this. We would like to thank our sponsors for the event, Red Pen, and the team behind that, Ms. Pooja and Ms. Namita. And the entire team and the entire backend team, including Rekha ji, Swati and Kritika from YFLO. And of course, Neha and Divya for curating such a beautiful conversation. And I think we all have a lot of points that we'll take back home and think about it. Thank you so much, everyone.